here from the HeroX team. Looks like we have a few people trickling in. Numbers are going up pretty quick. So we'll give everybody another few seconds and then we'll get started. All right, looks like we actually have a really good crowd. So firstly, thanks everyone for joining us for our webinar today. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we dive into the webinar. The webinar portion the entire webinar should run for about 30 to 35 minutes. The actual presentation portion will be anywhere from 25 to 30. If you have any questions that show up for you during the presentation, we invite you to message them into the chat. You can message them to everyone, you can message them to just the host and the panelists, however you feel most comfortable. We'll address all the questions at the very end. We'll leave a portion for a few minutes for a Q&A. As well, we'll be sending you a copy of the deck and a link to the recording of this webinar. So don't worry about taking notes. You'll be getting all the information in a follow-up email. And lastly, as part of the follow-up email, we'd love to get feedback, you guys. So there's going to be a survey included. It won't take you more than a few seconds. It'll be maybe 3 to 4 questions. Please ensure you take some time out and respond to the survey. All right, great. So let's get started. So really quickly, just an introduction. As I mentioned, my name is Cal Sahota. I'm the VP of Possibilities with the HeroX team. You guys have come from a very traditional background in business, 25 years in financial services. I was an executive with an insurance company, a financial advisor, worked in banking for a number of years. I was introduced into this space coming on to 3 years now by our CEO, Christian Cottacini. And I have the absolute pleasure of connecting with people literally all over the world, talking about their crowdsourcing projects, supporting them and getting started. And physically, I'm located in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, which is actually kind of wet and rainy today. And that's a little bit about myself. So on to more interesting things. We will get right into the webinar. So for the agenda today, it's pretty straightforward. It's really designed to help you really understand why crowdsourcing should matter in your world and how you can really leverage it to create value for your business and your brand. So we'll start off, as I said, with just why should I care about crowdsourcing, talk a little bit about the future of business, talk about how HeroX fits into all of this as the social network, and then we'll talk a little bit about getting started and how simple it is. And as I mentioned, then we'll leave a few minutes at the end for some Q&A. So crowdsourcing matters, and we'll talk more about this throughout the entire presentation, but only as it relates to the success of your business. That's it. It's just that simple. So how does crowdsourcing work? So, it's great to start off with just a little bit of a basic overview. So it really starts off with an organization identifying a business issue, a problem, and it doesn't have to be a problem. It can actually be an opportunity as well. They broadcast that as an open call to the crowd and invite them to submit their ideas. It's done in a very brand-friendly, very risk-friendly way, and you'll hear the term oftentimes, but it's called hosting a challenge. From there, the crowd will submit their solutions, the organization then vets the solution, and then quite simply, the organization selects and awards the solution or solutions which best meet their needs. Really simple. It's literally like a contest. Crowdsourcing, really, if you think about it, is a simple business tool. Okay, so when you solve business issues with crowdsourcing versus traditional business, here are the 4 key points which we believe would matter to you, at least from a business perspective. So firstly, you get exactly what you're looking for. So how that works is this. When you create and launch your challenge, you very clearly articulate exactly what you're looking for. So when the crowd comes to compete, they're clear in what you're solving for. So you're not going to get a variation or a version of what you want. You will get exactly what you want. Secondly, there's no delays. And how often do you run projects and deadlines get pushed out? Maybe someone's not feeling well. Maybe you're in manufacturing and you're waiting on a part. I mean, it's really just part of running business, isn't it? With crowdsourcing, every challenge has a clear timeline. So whether you run your challenge for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever the case may be, the crowd knows that they have to submit their ideas by the deadline. or they can't compete. Therefore, you will get your solution exactly at the time that you requested. Budgets going over is another big common issue in business. And with this approach, you don't go over budget. And how that works is this. When you launch your challenge, you very clearly define what the value of that solution is to you. That's the prize purse. That's it. Once you launch your challenge, it's locked in. The second part of it is the actual operation cost of running the challenge. And that will also be clear to you up front. So there's no surprises, no overages. Now, lastly, you're going to be hard pressed to find this in any business model, but you only pay for success. Okay, so keep in mind, we have a close to 90% success rate. But that said, if by chance the crowd doesn't present you with your winning solution, you simply don't award. It's a challenge, right? So if somebody doesn't meet your challenge, you don't award the money. So when you step back and you look at just these 4 key points, doesn't crowdsourcing just make really good business sense? It's the same spend. So keeping up with change, it's critical in ensuring the success and the resilience of your company and your brand. The very foundation of how we conduct business is oftentimes moving and shifting beneath us on a day-to-day basis. It's when you get complacent or resistant to change, that's oftentimes when you potentially run the risk of losing your brand or your business. And we've seen that happen over the years. The average half-life of a business has dropped from 30 to just 5 years from 1984 to 2014. The stat I get is about 3 to 4 years old, but I love the stat. I just find it so powerful. The rate of change that most large organizations are formed in isn't the same rate of change that they're dealing with today. And as you can see from the slide, the impact is very real. I'm going to date myself a little bit, but Blockbuster and Kodak are 2 household brand names that I grew up with. They're no longer. If you can't innovate and shift with the tide, you're going to run risks. This is another pretty shocking stat, particularly since Fortune 500 companies are huge, large, established brand names. 52% of them are gone since 2000. Granted, some of them are through mergers and acquisitions, but nevertheless, over 50% no longer exist. So is it really the future? I don't know. Let's take a look. So crowdsourcing is really everywhere if you take a look. The Ansari X Prize was a challenge which uncovered a technology to allow for private space travel. Now, some of you may or may not have made the connection, so let me tie it in for you. This new technology was eventually purchased by Richard Branson. That's where Virgin Galactic came from. The more you look, the more you're going to see organizations leveraging crowd. Kraft has been using it for years for content. Deloitte's been bringing it into their consulting services. They actually wrote an excellent white paper. That's the snapshot you see there. Doritos did a fun Super Bowl ad. Lego's actually been crowdsourcing for a number of years. They actually crowdsource, you guys, ideas for their new Lego sets. And then once they do that, they then in turn crowdsource the actual designers who then build the set. So they're using it on both ends. This is another great example, a very public example of crowdsourcing. So everyone is, I'm sure, familiar with Elon Musk. Now, he likes the idea of Hyperloop, which is a new form of transportation, disruptive innovation, if you will. He's crowdsourcing his entire startup. So how does HeroX fit into all of this? HeroX is the social network where organizations build their own crowd. So let's talk a little bit about what that actually looks like. So firstly, HeroX is simply a platform which enables you to run your crowdsourcing project. That's it. It's a turnkey platform giving you everything you need to launch your challenge, run your challenge, do all of the judging and a turnkey platform, and even all the way to announcing winners. Our platform is just over about 5 years old now. What makes it so amazing, at least in my humble opinion, is that every successful challenge we debrief with our clients. And as excited as we are to hear about what worked, we're actually more excited to hear about what didn't work. And it's in that learning that we've applied all of the improvements to the features and the functionality of the platform. So in a way, it's designed by you for you. It's also incredibly robust and powerful, but oddly enough, I'm actually not a techie. It's super simple and really intuitive to use. The entire platform guides you through everything that you need. I'm not going to get into too much detail on the features of the platform itself. However, I will point out that a key distinction with our platform is that you get started for free and you run your challenge for free. You only see an invoice from us when you get into judging phase. It's a pay for success model. Now, if you wanted to learn more about the platform itself, we do have, it's about an 18 to 20 minute walkthrough done by our platform expert, Liz Treadwell. We can absolutely send that over to you. So HeroX is a two-sided marketplace. I know we focused a fair bit right so far on the sponsor side, the sponsor being those who actually run the challenges, primarily to support you in understanding where crowdsourcing may fit in your everyday. That said, the other side are those who actually come to compete. So you have the sponsors who seek solutions, and then you have the innovators, or as we like to refer to them lovingly as the heroes. When you look at the crowdsourcing landscape, it's growing exponentially year over year. It's not something that you can actually look past or ignore anymore, or consider, that this isn't something that is for you. The other thing which really occurred to us when we looked at this is that space is really quite fragmented. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, like, if you didn't know anything about crowdsourcing, it would be so difficult and almost impossible to really decide which platform you should be using, etc. Secondly, the other thing that occurred to us is when you run a challenge on a platform, whether it be a top coder or whether it be 9 Sigma, whatever the case may be, once your challenge completes, the community that was actually competing in that challenge closes off along with it, right? So it's gone. So we really saw that as an opportunity. Why not invite your community to stay with you in one place that's specific to crowdsourcing and to your brand? That's really where the shift for us came from. So moving from just a platform to also then positioning ourselves as a social network for crowdsourcing. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So think to the social networks that you're familiar with. There's the Facebooks and the LinkedIns of the world. You have your own homepage or main page, however you want to refer to it. So at HeroX, you have your own crowdsourcing page. Every challenge you host, your entire community lives on your HeroX crowdsourcing page. So here's an example of NASA's, and this is actually a little bit dated because they've run multiple challenges actually with us. So you can see all the challenges are here. You can update your community, and here's a list of their innovators. You can customize your page, add in any graphics or even a video, however you'd like your brand to be represented in the marketplace. And again, just like Facebook and LinkedIn, you build, grow, and communicate with your very own community off of your personal crowdsourcing page. The more you crowdsource, the larger your community gets. Just like when you started LinkedIn, you probably started off with a handful of connections. Now you're probably well past a few hundred. So now that you get the basics of how crowdsourcing works, we talked a little bit about how HeroX fits into platform, and both as a platform and as a social network. So now let's walk through a case study to kind of help you to understand real time what that would look like potentially for a brand. So we had the pleasure of working with Coca-Cola. They're one of our clients. So Coca-Cola is actually looking for a new sweetener. And they actually took a couple of different approaches. They ran 2 different challenges with us, but I'm going to speak to this particular one because we announced winners just a few weeks back, the Sweet Story Challenge. So here it tells you a little bit about the challenge itself. So the crowd was invited to submit a 90-second video clip of talking about a story where they've used a natural sweetener, and maybe that's a plant, maybe that's a seed, as a family for years safely. So that was the actual challenge itself, and the prize was $100,000 US. The plan was to award 5 winners $20,000 apiece, but the thing is, once they actually got all of these really amazing submissions, they couldn't select. So they actually wound up increasing the prize value to $120,000, and they wound up awarding 6 winners versus 5. Here's some really great stats. So over 1,300 people are either following or competing in the challenge. Out of the 1,300, just over 1,000 competitors, representing 74 countries. And as I mentioned, 6 winners overall. The other great thing to point out here is, when you tap into the creativity of the crowd, you're not limiting yourself, you guys, to your space or your world or your realm, or really your specific community. You're really reaching out to the world. And you can see the winning submissions here. They came from all over: Mexico, Bolivia, Australia, England, Bulgaria, Indonesia. So, just really, really great representation globally. In fact, Coca-Cola was so impressed with, I think, the value that they got out of the challenge. They released a YouTube video a few days after the release of the winners. And it's a really great 3-minute watch. This is actually a live link here, so when you get that presentation, you can watch it. But you hear about the executives telling you in their words how they're utilizing crowdsourcing to really build their brand, look for product innovations. It also features a couple of the innovators talking about their submissions in their own language. Just a really, really great watch. So check out some projects on HeroX. I mean, I could talk about a number of them here, but the big takeaway here, hopefully you can see, is that there's diversity in prizes. And when you go onto the website, you're going to see the number of different sponsors and challenge areas, from government organizations as NASA, to entrepreneurs, to foundations, to mining companies. I mean, really, there's no limit, other than the fact that we ask that it be legal, socially responsible, and ethical. But as I said, I really do encourage you to just click on the challenges option on the main menu, and you can take a look at all the different options for you. As well, we created a case study screencast. It's about just over 6 minutes in length, so we can also include that in the follow-up email as well. Now, I've taken you through, again, crowdsourcing, how it fits in, and we've just talked about a case study. Now I'm going to invite you to take a bit of a step back. Look at the logic behind tapping into the creativity of the world. This is one of my favorite quotes by Einstein. We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. I mean, how that really occurs for me is this: finding someone that looks at your problem from a slightly different perspective without the curse of knowledge can oftentimes drive exponential ideas and results. Because when we're experts in the space, and you guys all know this, you wind up going down a bit of a rabbit hole, right? So by embracing the ideas that you don't know where your solution lives, you unlock a creativity which is otherwise limited in traditional business. I love this slide. Again, the invitation here is to take a step back. Look at all the ways the world is connected virtually. Why not take advantage of all this traffic? With over 3 billion people connected over the World Wide Web, the possibilities are amazing. The ideas, the possible solutions are endless. Go to where the crowd is. I mean, look at yourselves. How much time do you actually spend connected? Probably a few hours a day. I wanted to share another challenge with you. Now, this prize was awarded back in 2011. But the results and some of the facts around it were just really, really resonated with me, especially when I first walked into this space. So you guys are probably familiar with the BP oil spill of a number of years back in the Gulf of Mexico. So the then wife of the Google chairman, Wendy Schmidt, philanthropist, she's an activist in the environment, asked the question: how quickly are we cleaning up the oil? And the response she got was 1,100 gallons per minute. And she went to scientists, experts in the space. Everybody came back to her and said, look, Wendy, we know you want to do great things with the environment, but this is the best technology. It's 20 years old. Didn't work for her. So what she did is she launched a challenge for $1.4 million. And her challenge was to increase the cleanup to 2,500 gallons per minute. So she wanted to more than double the existing results. And she wanted an oil recovery efficiency of at least 70% oil to water. So what were the results? Over 250 teams competed worldwide. The end result was 4,670, which is a more than 400% increase over the industry's best of 1,100. And the actual efficiency was closer to 90%. Amazing result. But here's the thing. The most powerful part of the story isn't just the results, but that one of the top 10 competitors was a tattoo parlor owner out of Vegas. You literally have no idea where your solution lives and who has them. There is no conceivable way that Wendy Schmidt would have said, hey, now that we have all of it, let's fly down to Vegas and see what the tattoo parlor owners think. In traditional business environment, this individual would never have had the opportunity to contribute. Having that global presence is critical if you truly want to source crowd. I mean, there's many platforms and companies that claim that they're global, but as you can see from this map, we are truly global. Each pin represents a location where there's an innovator, and behind each location there may be a number, hundreds in fact, of innovators. We have over 185 countries represented on the platform. We'll take a look at some quick HeroX facts in just a minute. So the impact of crowdsourcing, I think it's also important to acknowledge the overall positive impact of crowdsourcing. As a potential innovator, you could be some poor kid from a rural village in Africa or Bangladesh or India, or you could be somebody who's brilliant but simply didn't get the opportunity for a full post-secondary education, let alone an Ivy League school. And you know what? You could live down the street from me. Right? So because now you don't have that Ivy League or post-secondary education, you're limited to certain positions that you can apply for. Secondly, as a business owner, I wanted to solve a business issue. I would naturally go to those who I'm most familiar with, asking them to provide me, with options, maybe vendors, whatever the case may be. That's traditional business. But by sourcing crowd, look at all the creativity that you actually open up. You deepen the pool of people that can present you with your solution naturally. So, NASA is one of our clients. If you had a great idea for NASA and you knocked on their front door, they're going to say, that's great, Cal, but did you graduate from MIT, Harvard? They have to look for credentials because that's just the nature of what it is. But when they crowdsource with us, and somebody brings them a solution, so long as the solution meets their needs, they don't ask for the qualifications. It doesn't matter. All they're wanting is the solution. So it really levels the playing field. Here's some quick HeroX facts. I'm certainly not going to go through each of them one by one, but I will mention that when you get onto our platform, the baseline access that you have, we have anywhere from 85,000 to 90,000 registered active users on our site. So these are people that are constantly cruising and coasting our site to look for opportunities to compete in challenges. And that number is literally ticking up day by day. Our success rate is actually now closer to 90%. We have amazing social media following numbers. They're actually more than double for most of our competitors. I also listed out some of the brand names that we're working with them. And to be honest, we did this, the intention of this isn't to name drop, but it was just to share with you that, look, if the Coca-Colas, the NBCs, and the Boeings of the world are taking part in crowdsourcing, if you haven't already considered it, you should. And I did list some of the larger brand names only for the sake of familiarity, but you can be a small business, a mid-sized business. You can even be an entrepreneur or an individual. There really is no limit. So all that being said, that's great and fantastic, but how do I get started? So you first start, at least how it shows up for me, is with a simple shift of how things show up for you. How this may be occurring for you is this. This is all great and all, make great sense, but I don't really have anything that I could use it for. How it will eventually occur for you is this. I have an issue. I have something that I need to solve for. Let's HeroX it. No different than if you're looking for a quick and fast answer. What do you say now? You don't go search out an encyclopedia like we did many, many years ago. You say, what? Let's Google it. So when you need a business issue resolved, let's HeroX it. It's really just a shift in the way you view things. Listen, Facebook at one time was considered trendy or maybe even a fad, same as social media as a whole, but it wasn't, was it? It was actually shifting the way we do business. Social media and digital marketing have put the marketing industry on its ear. It's no longer the new way to market, you guys. It is the way to market. So paying attention to the shifts in business is really critical for both the survival and the success of your business. Who would have thought that there would be social media experts, like positions for social media experts within most large companies? You wouldn't have probably thought that 10 years ago. So here's the request. So I invite you to take a look at what you're up to. I mean, it's literally anything that's in front of you that you're stuck on or you need a solution for. I mean, I've listed out just a handful of examples. Maybe you need a new technology, an app. Maybe you want to, create a new product. Maybe you want to design it. Maybe you need the packaging for your new product. Maybe you want to redesign your website. The possibilities of challenge concepts, you guys, are as endless as the issues themselves. Where you see a problem, I invite you to see the opportunity for a crowd-sourced solution. I mean, we've talked about one of the biggest powers of sourcing crowd, which is going outside of your space, and that's oftentimes where disruption happens. And listen, this is really important to pay attention to. If you're looking for a solution to your business and your thought is, hey, if I can get this product up and running, it'll probably add 20% to my revenue for this year. What if you crowdsourced something and the solution you got increased it by 100%? I mean, I'm certainly not suggesting that you're going to get the results Wendy Schmidt did at 400%, but you might, right? So the whole point is you open up options, and there's a possibility there that exists that doesn't exist with traditional business. You're spending the money anyways to look for the solution. Why not spend it in a way where you could get exponential results? So the use of the HeroX platform, so 2 simple options to get started. So either you do it yourself or we support you. So option 1 is pretty straightforward. The HeroX platform is so easy. You just go onto the site, click onto the create a challenge option, and away you go. It's super simple. It's intuitive to use. The platform guides you by asking you all the right questions. You iterate on the content until it feels right. Then you simply click publish and away you go. We offer you a full playbook or knowledge base, as well as interaction with our platform experts to answer any questions along the way. So for this reason, most of our clients typically come on board as a DIY client. That said, if you don't have the bandwidth, or maybe your challenge concept is a bit complicated or it's quite audacious, or you're maybe crowdsourcing for the first time, then you have option 2. So you can augment your experience on the platform with our optional consulting services. And I mean, I'll be honest, it's certainly not our business model to upsell. If all of our clients felt empowered to just get started on our platform DIY, nothing would make us happier. But that said, again, we can support you in 3 key areas. We can support you in designing your challenge. There's a handful of marketing services as well as judging support. I'm not going to go into each of these in detail. I just wanted you to be aware that they are in fact available for you. The other thing I want to mention as well is oftentimes our clients will go with a hybrid. So they'll get started as a DIY client, and then maybe they'll add on design, maybe they'll add on some marketing services. We can certainly take that leadership approach if you are a bit stuck once you get started and guide you through what best meets your needs. And that's what we're here for. We're here to support you to make sure your needs are met, but also to make sure that you stay within your budget. So tying it all up, here's some quick summary of our HeroX advantages. It's universal. It's a one-stop shop for crowdsourcing platform. Regardless of your formal expertise or credentials, it's open to absolutely everyone. It's paid for success versus hope for the best results. It's the only place where you actually have your own social network. So it's one of the highest social media engagements across all of our competitors, as well as your global reach. With the registered innovators we have on our platform now, it touches over 185 countries. So next step, so on our end, we will be sending you a follow-up email with a copy of the presentation and a link to today's webinar, as well as I'll also include that screencast I was mentioning so you can view some of the additional successful case studies. It really will help you take it out of the conceptual and make it feel more real for you. On your end for next steps, identify a possible project to crowdsource. Give some thought to what the budget might look like. Start small, something simple. You know, oftentimes during this presentation, clients have already identified a few different concepts. So from there, you basically just get started. There's no cost to starting or running your challenge, as you know. Or what you can do is you can reach out to me directly. I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions. You can also schedule in a complimentary challenge creation workshop with one of our expert designers. So let's talk a bit about what that looks like. So our designers will support you in working through the problem you've identified, doing a bit of a discovery, and support you in creating an outline for a challenge concept. The only prerequisite is this, is that we ask that you have challenge concept or concepts identified, as well as a budget earmarked. So long as you have those two things and somewhat of an idea as to when you want to get your project launched, then we're more than pleased to schedule in that complimentary workshop. And listen, these are the same designers that work with the Coca-Colas and the Boeings of the world. So we're pleased to be able to offer this to you. Listen, move at the pace that works for you, but do move forward. As you can see from the data, crowdsourcing is very much the future. And you could do nothing. But here's what happened to me when I did nothing. I didn't get LinkedIn, okay? I didn't get LinkedIn, and then I shifted companies a few years back, and when I went to look for another position, all I heard was, is your LinkedIn profile created? Is it up to date? Can I reference it there? Or you can apply directly to a job right off of LinkedIn if you're hooked up. I felt like I had fallen behind, that I hadn't kept up. There was a feeling that all of a sudden I wasn't relevant. That's what you want to avoid. Be in action and keep up, stay relevant. Brands have been already crowdsourcing for years. And as I mentioned, listen, if brands like Coca-Cola, Land O'Lake, National Geographic, just to name a handful, are already actively crowdsourcing, it's probably something that you should look at. Start building your crowd. I mean, there's no cost to having your own crowdsourcing page. And we acknowledge the nuances are there for you, so we're there to guide you through the entire process. So with that, I will leave you with one final comment. I believe it's not a question of if you will crowdsource, it's a question of when. And that's it. So that concludes the presentation portion of our webinar for today. Thanks so very much for your time and attention. And I think at this point, what we'll do is we'll just we'll take some questions. So if you haven't already done so, please drop your questions into the chat, and we'll try to get through as many of them as possible. And for those questions that we don't get to, we'll make sure that we respond to you personally in the follow-up email. Let's give you guys a couple of seconds to see what's already come in so far. Okay, great. So we have, first question is, can you explain what you mean by social network? Absolutely. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take it out of the presentation. Let's just go straight to the site. And let's just go through maybe Coca-Cola's. So you can see just off of the main bar here, you can search any challenge that you'd like. So I'm just going to click on the one that I was actually speaking to, which is the Sweet Story Challenge. So this is how the challenge actually appears on the site, right? And when you go through the platform walkthrough webinar recording, as I mentioned, it'll get into more detail. But so this is the individual challenge. And when you click on Coca-Cola, voila. So here you go. So this is their crowdsourcing page. This is what they have. This is their own. This is how they branded it. They're actually running 2 active challenges with us. They're both displayed here. If they wanted to, somebody wanted to message in, they would message here. There's an activity feed that's here. And if you wanted to, offer updates, much like a blog post, you would do it here. And this is their full community. So this is the full community of everybody that's right now following or competing on Coca-Cola's challenges, on both of these 2 challenges. Okay, so that's how it works. And like I said, the shift for us was this, like, let's just say the Sweet Story Challenge completed, that's over 1,300 people following. Well, once the challenge completed, then those 1,300 people will kind of close off with the challenge, which didn't make sense to us. So now what happens is they all live on this main page. And the other thing I should just mention as well is, I mean, the thing that you're going to probably notice a bit of a distinction with the other social networks is the news feed, right? So the news feed is something that we're working on. Our website hasn't quite caught up to our vision, and we're working on that actively. Okay, so next question. You say it's simple. Is it really? I'm all for trying new things, but I don't want to create a lot of unnecessary work for myself. Gotcha. You know, honestly, it really is just that simple. So let me just, since I'm in the site already, show you. So you just click on the main navigation page on the left here, and you simply, you know, go down and you click on Launch Challenge. That's it. And if you wanted a really quick walkthrough, you could just listen to this. It's a really quick draw shot video. It's just a couple of minutes. And then you click down here and you click on Launch My Challenge. And for me, because I'm a registered user, it kind of pre-populates my information in. But you would put your information in, and then the way it works is it basically just guides you. So it'll say, you know, what problem are you wanting to solve for? How long do you want to run your challenge for? So it'll ask you all the basic questions, and it'll guide you through the process. And once you're done going through the initial process, what you get afterwards is basically your own custom URL. So your own challenge page pops up like this, but in the corner it'll say unpublished, okay? But you get your own custom URL, and it remains unpublished. You can look at it, you can edit it, switch out the content until it feels like it really works for you. Then you click on publish, and away you go. And remember, there's no cost to getting started, and there's no cost to running your challenge. It's not until you actually get into judging phase that we actually invoice you. And our mindset is this, that we believe your success is our success. So once you get submissions, you've seen already solutions. So we feel that there's a level of success you've already seen, so we'll invoice you there. Okay, so I think we probably have time for maybe one more question. Okay, so you mentioned DIY. Is your pricing listed somewhere on the site? Yeah, it is absolutely listed. Here, I'm just going to show you here. It's very straightforward. So the way it works is if you use just the basic use of the platform, the baseline use of HeroX is a percentage of the actual prize value. Okay, so let's just say you decided to run a challenge for $10,000. Okay, so for $10,000, your cost for using the platform would be $900. And as you can see, the larger your prize values get for those portions, it goes down. And the way it's actually invoiced, I should also mention as well, is that, you know, using the example of the 10,000 prize purse, your fee being $900. Once you get into judging phase, we will invoice you $450, okay? Because now you've seen some solutions, and we see that you've seen some success. We won't invoice you the remainder $450 until you announce winners. And if by chance, and like I said, our success rate is 90%, but close to 90%, I should say. But if by chance you don't award a winner, we're not going to invoice you the remainder of the 50%. So that's how it works. It's a success fee. Okay. All right. So listen, that, let's see. Does HeroX extend crowdsourcing across social media platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, etc., promoted by the sponsor of the challenge? Is there any additional cost for promotion on these challenges? Gotcha. Okay, yes, so very good question. So as I mentioned to you up front, that there are optional services that you can tap into. So here are the optional services. We can support you in designing your challenge. We can also support you with marketing. So in the marketing side, the crowd engagement, yes, there is support there, where we will support you in social media ads across Twitter and Facebook. But the way we encourage you to approach marketing your challenge is this. It's more of a three-prong approach. The first is, as soon as you get your challenge onto the HeroX site, immediately, you know, you're present to 85 to 90,000 active users. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step is you yourself as a brand or as an entrepreneur, you already have a social media following. So because you have your own custom URL, we encourage you to go ahead and do your media shares across Twitter, across Facebook, across LinkedIn, wherever you feel most comfortable. Then the third prong approach would be you can take us out for some consulting services. So if you feel like you're not getting enough traffic on your site and you want to be able to drive more traffic to your page, then we can 100% support you on that. When you say it's a one-stop shop for crowdsourcing, do you mean I should be using the site for all outsourcing, etc.? Okay, gotcha. So when I say it's a one-stop shop, there's different crowdsourcing platforms that are out there. Some focus, like you're mentioning, on Upwork. Some focus, on data-driven type challenges. With HeroX, it's more of a broad approach. So there's no specific type of challenges we host. We host all of them across the board. And the mindset being this, that if you limit your community, you're kind of limiting the possibility for exponential results. So we make it much broader. We also do not have a paywall. So oftentimes you have other platforms which, they'll give you access to their community, but they make you pay for it. With us, we don't do that. It's open to anybody. Okay, so it's broad, so there's nothing specific there. The other thing that I want to mention is that if you did by chance decide to use a different platform, and you can certainly do that, you can still co-promote your challenge on your crowdsourcing page. You can still do that. So there's no limitations to that. So if you wanted to, let's just say you're running a challenge with Top Coder or 9 Sigma or one of these other platforms, and you wanted to co-promote it on your crowdsourcing page, you can absolutely do that. Because the whole logic and the mindset being is, your crowdsourcing page is your community, your crowd, they're your brand enthusiasts, and the more you use it, the larger it's going to get. So, if you use our platform, it just makes it easier, but it's not necessary. You can use any platform if you choose. All right. Fantastic. So listen, I think that's most of our questions, and I think there might be a couple more coming in. But for any additional questions that do come in, we'll make sure that we respond to them directly in your own personal email. So on behalf of the HeroX team, thank you so very much for taking the time to join us today. As I mentioned at the start of our presentation, we'll send you a copy of the deck, the recording, all that other stuff. But also, please take a couple of seconds and provide us your feedback. Let me know what you thought of the webinar. Did you get value out of it? Did I talk too fast? Did I answer your questions? So whatever feedback you have, we love it. So depending on where you are in the world, enjoy your morning, your afternoon, or your evening. Thanks so very much for joining.